And then, so I just saved, and I don't know if you even caught that, but now I'm functionally complete over here on my simulator. All I did was hit save. And now I can hit testing and search, and it goes out to, it's if you can see down here in the debug console, it's sending out the request. Make sure that my internet is working. This is the problem with live coding, especially against the server. Connected the wrong thing. That will explain it. For some reason, the Wi-Fi here is blocking the request. So let's try that one more time. And if you notice, I got my results here. And so, just so that you can actually see it. So, the testing password has been seen a few times. Shocking, really. So that's seen a few less times. That's 274. Hey, 0 times. All right, that's a good password. We'll use that. But now you've all seen my password, so maybe I should make some way of obscuring that. So let's go through here, and so this right here is using what's called a text field. It's this right here, and it's backed by a controller. It's actually just this text editor controller that just takes in your starter text. It's very simple. We have our count state. We have our test password function, which you see it's just taking the text from that controller, getting the raw bytes from it, and doing a SHA-1 over that, and then converting that to a string and making it all uppercase, so that when we take the first 5, the prefix, and put it into the range, that it actually reads it properly. Then we simply make an HTTP GET request with that URL we just constructed, and once that returns, we take our response, check the status code that it's successful. We go ahead, the response that we're getting back actually looks like this. It's a list of hash suffixes with a colon and then their count. So here's our 200 response. So I just split that string across the new lines, which gives us a list of all of our hashes with their counts. I take our hash and get just the suffix of it, because we're only getting back the suffixes. So I want to compare it against just the suffix, not the entire thing. And then I find the first one of those hashes, that list of hashes, that starts with our suffix, and return it. And if it doesn't find it, then it returns null. So if we don't get null, if we actually got a response back that has our suffix, then we split that across the colon and parse the latter part of it to be our count. And we set the state, which if anybody's familiar with React, it's exactly the same. It just lets the system know, okay, our state has changed, state is dirty, we need to rebuild this part of the UI so that we take in this new state as a factor. And then otherwise, if it was null, then we know that there's no instances of our password, and so we just set it to 0. So all that happens on the on press of this floating action button. And then down here, you can see us using that state to construct. All right, so we started our state at -1 so that we would know if the app had just been launched and we hadn't found the password yet. We can put nothing. So it won't put this text initially. But then once we have done a search, and thus our count is not negative, it will say we found our count, our password count number of times, and we even go through and say, okay, well if count is equal to 1, then we won't put the S, and otherwise we will put the S. So let's put a little bit of style on here, a little bit of polish. And so I'm going to collapse this so that I don't have to keep scrolling past it. Oh, that's right, I was going to do the obscure thing. So let's start off this text field. We can obscure text, and if we do true and save, so now it's like any other password field, right?
Talk about hot reload and how that kind of applies.
Well, I kind of figured that they were catching that as I was going, but maybe not. So yeah, so I just hit save, and hot reload hits. Oh yeah, because I obscured it again. False, and saved, and boom. So that's the hot reload in action. Now, as a developer, that's awesome, right? So I just save and I instantly see my results. Normally you only see this in web development. But the Flutter team has done a great job of optimizing things and making it to where in the development, it's actually jetting it. It's just sending over the bit code, and instantly you can actually see down here where it's reloading one of 562 libraries, and it's telling you less than a second. So that's the time of me saving to the time it shows up on the screen, right? Or the code.
Can you see a sample iPhone and Android phone at the same time when you're doing this?
So you can. It's a little more complicated because it's actually connecting directly to this device right now. I could hook to another device, but since we're limited on time,
I just wondered if it was capable.
It is definitely capable. And I'm in the simulator right now. You can just as easily do the emulator for the Android side. You can also just as easily use a device, like a live device. But yeah, so if you notice, even though it's doing a reload of the code, it's still keeping my state as well. So it's a stateful hot reload. Oh no, you're fine. I appreciate the question. So instead of doing the hard-coded, like what if I want to be able to show somebody the password, I'm trying to construct a password that I can use later that hasn't been seen before. But then what if I'm around other people? Posting spelling's probably better now. So now we're using a variable. And I want to put a button right here where I can toggle that obscurity. Okay, so real quick, all of this is constructed in a column. Around this text field, I'm going to use a shortcut key that is just built into the dev environment. Wrap that in a row, and wrap that. If I save this right now, it's actually not going to save. Notice the text field disappears, because the row actually needs the text field to be, it needs to know the constraints on the text field. And so I'm going to wrap that in another widget, which is called extended, which just tells it, I want it to go as far across as it'll let it. Did I misspell it? Expanded, sorry. Expanded. And that tells it to go all the way across, and you notice it shows back up. So, just past that expanded, I can add an icon. Again, helps you spell links correctly. With the icon, and I'm actually going to use a little cheat here, because I prepped it beforehand. That's actually going to use our state to tell. I'll go ahead and save this just so you can see. So it's disabled right now because there's no on press. But if I add an on press, and it's also showing that the button is to hide it. That's the representation to hide it. But if I put an on press here, I'm going to make it toggle obscure. here, and then a little presentation menu. And now you see it's actually clickable, and if I click it, the toggles are security. And it also toggles the icon, so you can say, oh, I want to be able to see it. Oh, I don't want to be able to see it. So that extends all the way into even the theming of the app. So say I wanted, our client came back, oh, we don't like the blue, let's make it purple. It's purple. Let's make it yellow. What's to say? And now it's yellow. And you notice the text at the top went from white to black. So it's aware of the coloring and how the rest of the theming needs to change in order to make it personal. And I can even add an accent color. And you can customize all of this to the nth degree. It's just like out of the box, these are the things that you get that are really nice. So let's go, what accent color should we use? Amber? Green? Indigo? Indigo. Save, and now we've got an indigo, but it's still hard to see against.
I saw a change.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Alright. Yellow. There we go. That's a little easier.
Do you guys have any questions so far? One interesting factor about one of Google's A/B testing too, which is really nice to have these features in the app, is so the companies are looking at like what Matt just showed. The companies are saying, hey, what can I do to get more attention, like if it's an e-commerce app? The famous example of this is Amazon. They changed their button from, was it blue to green? Do you remember? Something like that, one way or the other, from blue to green or green to blue, and it drastically impacted their sales on their e-commerce app. And it was something kind of unexpected, but they started testing it, and they were like, well, if we show consumers this color, they'll buy more of this product. And so now with things like that, before it was, just a huge, okay, how many hours is it going to take to change out that graphic? What does that look like? And now being able to change this in real time, if Emily comes up with something crazy, and it's like, can we switch this out quickly, then any of our developers can go into the code and quickly make changes related to that client's goals.
Where do you manage the A/B testing? Is that like through, are you doing that like through your own backend, like, whatever user management you're choosing half the users, or is that happening at like the app and Play Store level?
There's two sides of it. What I was referring to specifically is part of, are you familiar with Firebase? What I was referring to specifically is it's a tool set in Firebase. And so they have an A/B testing, and with Flutter especially, like any tool set that's in Firebase that's been drastically expanded, integrates so easily. So we get access to all of Google's A/B testing tools through Firebase, and then can use all of those tools, and based on those results, just implement it in the code.
So you don't use Firebase a lot for backends?
We use Firebase a lot. Well, both for backends, and then occasionally, like, if for whatever reason, say that it's an enterprise client, and it just doesn't make sense, or they're not comfortable with using Firebase as a backend. We also use Firebase for analytics, A/B testing, even if we're not using their backend for certain things. We do a lot of push notification work and work on a lot of consulting and strategy for that. And so they have a push notification service under Firebase too. So it's a little bit different for every client, but being able to pull all of those Firebase tool sets into Flutter is a huge advantage.
So while she was talking, I went ahead and put it in a cart, so it's a little, sorry. My adapter kind of is finicky.
Okay, should have been last time.
So while she was talking, I went, is that behind me? It's behind me. There you go. So while she was talking, I went ahead and put our interface in a card, so it makes it a little more three-dimensional. Makes it maybe a little nicer. Went ahead and put some styling on the text. Put some padding in there so it's not butted right up against the wall. all what she was talking.
I don't know if you guys have picked up on this or not, but Matt is not a designer.
No.
And so one other aspect of this before is if we would have our designer put screens together for a client or for a presentation or for whatever reason, then our entire team's goal was like, okay, how do we match that in our development and how do we spend time getting that as close as possible? So from an engineering perspective, having all of this directly built into their framework is huge because it's unlikely, sorry Matt, that Matt would put something together and be able to style a card that way because that's just not his skill set. He's going to think about it from an engineering perspective and not from how do we make these designs work. And so them doing things like changing the coloring theme to match and otherwise makes a huge difference. It makes it so much easier for our team. And it's also easier for us to hire designers, but I think they get slightly less frustrated.
Yeah, we actually had, we hired a front-end guy, and it was our first, like, well, not our first, but anyway, so we got a front-end guy, and we were like, all right, so do you think you could pick this up? And he went away for like an hour or two, and he came back and he had made an app. And this is a guy that he doesn't do native app development. So it's the real-time hot reloading, or not real-time, but the hot reloading makes such a big difference in the tweaking and testing. And if I'd had a little bit more time, I was going to kind of run y'all through like some of the error finding and correction and that sort of thing. But it being completely open source means that I can go straight into the source of any of this and see exactly what it is, exactly how it was made, both for Flutter and for Dart. So.
Thomas, that's another aspect of it. We have a lot of, like Matt was mentioning, but then they also have crash logs in Firebase too, so we can pull all of those in through that service too. I think we're getting